Homage to teacher Buddha Shakyamuni, homage to wisdom warrior Manjushri, homage to lineage masters. The Dharma, profound, is rarely encountered even in ages. Now we are able to hear, study, and follow it. May we fully realize Tathagata's true meaning in order to liberate all sentient beings from samsara, generate supreme bodhicitta. Next, we will continue to deeply study the profound sufferings of samsara, which are truly immense. Now, we will discuss in detail the profound sufferings of the hungry ghosts, a topic of significant importance. Before talking about the profound sufferings of hungry ghosts, I should also clarify something very important for everyone. The particular way we are teaching now is mainly based upon the original, ancient, and deeply profound Buddhist methods of mind training and spiritual cultivation. Nowadays, there are indeed various and often conflicting opinions prevalent within society. For example, some individuals, perhaps due to a lack of understanding or a modern perspective, tend to treat the ancient traditions of Dharma transmission, along with their many associated customs and practices, as entirely outdated, old-fashioned, and even irrelevant, leading them to completely discard, abandon, and disregard these valuable spiritual legacies. This approach is also unreasonable because it is only upon the solid foundation of the traditional culture and the cherished customs of our esteemed ancestors that humanity can truly accept and integrate new cultural knowledge and understanding. So I believe that completely abandoning everything from ancient times is also an extreme. There are also individuals who, in addition to adhering strictly to ancient time-honored practices and traditions, steadfastly refuse to acknowledge, embrace, or even consider new ideas, contemporary knowledge, or the diverse range of modern technologies and artistic expressions that have emerged and evolved over time. This approach is also incorrect. As devoted Buddhists, we also truly need to diligently keep up with the ever-changing world, conscientiously follow the evolving times, and actively move forward in harmony with the current era. If we do not actively do this, Buddhist thought will also be abandoned by the relentless times and by new knowledge. Therefore, we should carefully add some modern approaches on the solid foundation of ancient traditions. This is our basic attitude toward learning and acquiring knowledge. That's how I see it. Currently, among intellectuals, there are also some who, when studying Buddhism, refuse to accept anything outside of Buddhist scriptures and treatises, and are unwilling to accept new cases or the principles of new science and technology. Especially among the older generation of practitioners, some elder monks and senior Dharma teachers, there is also a portion who hold such views. There are also some new Dharma teachers who are not very interested in all the ancient practices and the cases found in Buddhist scriptures and are not particularly drawn to these things. They firmly believe that people's thinking must continually evolve and adapt with the changing times and consistently align themselves with the contemporary trends of thought, thinking that in this way people will more easily accept Buddhist knowledge. But in doing so, I feel, as I mentioned earlier, there are also extreme drawbacks. If you completely abandon the content found in the Buddhist scriptures, for example, when we talk about impermanence and the suffering of samsara nowadays, if these topics are not mentioned, even though they truly exist, after death, many sentient beings are bound to fall into the realm of hungry ghosts. Yet we do not mention this at all and only talk about issues related to food, clothing, shelter, and daily life just to get by. I think if we truly speak from the Buddhist perspective, it is an irresponsible attitude. Therefore, when Dharma teachers transmit the teachings in the future, the basic foundational knowledge of Buddhism must not be altered. No matter how much we try to make Buddhism more worldly, with the so-called systematization and informatization nowadays, the original sufferings of hell, hungry ghosts and animals, their causes, conditions and classifications, these cannot be changed. If you do change them and use your own discriminating thoughts to tell others pleasant-sounding words, in reality, you are leading these sentient beings onto a wrong path. And you have not clearly explained to them the various sufferings and joys of future lives. So when I am teaching the preliminary practices and the Pure Land Dharma to everyone this time, I am basically following the traditional methods of transmission used by the great masters of the past, taking Buddhist stories and scriptural evidence as the foundation. Sometimes in order to keep everyone interested and to avoid being too rigid, I have occasionally incorporated a select few contemporary examples into this discussion. This particular approach, which might be perceived as somewhat unconventional or perhaps even a little uninspiring for a very limited demographic of individuals residing in specific urban centers, may not resonate as particularly vibrant or engaging to their sensibilities. When talking about some Buddhist stories, such as the sufferings of hungry ghosts, if someone has good practice, their mind can truly engage with it. But if their practice is not good, they may feel that the various worldly philosophies in society today are more comfortable to listen to and may have this kind of feeling. However, we should be responsible to sentient beings. We must convey what is taught in the preliminary practices and these Dharma teachings to bring out the most fundamental ideas and explain them to everyone as thoroughly as possible. So for most people, I think this should be beneficial. At the same time, first laying the foundation of the preliminary practices for everyone, I believe this point is not just for me, but also for many Dharma teachers present here, including some lay practitioners. Once you have a certain level of ability and you want to share all the Buddhist knowledge within your own mind stream with others, you may not necessarily within your own mind stream impart all the profound states or the highest teachings right from the start. You might not begin by teaching these to others immediately. You may feel, oh, so many people want to learn. So first you definitely need to teach the most basic and fundamental foundation of the preliminary practices. I think that many Dharma teachers here, when you teach the Dharma to others in the future, when we begin, we will definitely start from the very fundamental basics. That is indeed my firm expectation for this session. As we delve into teaching about the profound and often overwhelming suffering experienced within the three lower realms this time, it is absolutely crucial that you also simultaneously contemplate and deeply reflect upon the pervasive and cyclical suffering inherent in the entirety of samsara itself. The suffering of samsara, which encompasses all existence, is such that sometimes even a seemingly relatively simple or minor condition, an ordinary circumstance, or a fleeting thought can unexpectedly arise and manifest within your intricate and continuous mind stream, leading to significant distress and profound implications. Some time ago, a few Dharma friends brought up questions to me. They asked about how the concept of impermanence arises in one's mind stream, which is essentially the generation of renunciation. Some say that contemplating gross impermanence is sufficient, while others say that one must contemplate subtle impermanence. At the time, I also responded with some reasoning. Later, I thought that if one truly had to generate an understanding of subtle impermanence, I'm afraid that even many great masters and eminent monks, when they first ordained or first developed the contemplation of impermanence, did they really discern that all phenomena are impermanent? Especially according to the Sarvastivada or the common vehicles perspectives, the most subtle reasoning of moment-to-moment impermanence. Generally speaking, according to the perspective of the Abhidharma Kosha, there is no such discernment. We all know that the subtlest particles and the most subtle moments are generally not acknowledged as empty by the common vehicles, according to the view of the Abhidharma Kosha. Thus, within the common vehicle's own path, there is no discernment of emptiness. Without discerning emptiness, if one cannot generate the perception of impermanence in their continuum, I'm afraid there will be certain difficulties. So sometimes when I read the biographies of some masters, it seems that it's not always necessary to contemplate subtle impermanence. Take, for example, Khenpo Sodargye, who was also an extraordinary accomplished master among the great figures of Vajrayana. At first, when renunciation arose in his mind stream, it was very simple, just like ordinary people in the world. When he was merely 13 years old, his family meticulously arranged for him what you in the Han regions commonly call a child bride. From a very young age, his family had already carefully arranged a little girl for him to be his future wife. So, at the approximate age of 13 years, Khenpo, who was a dedicated Vajra practitioner, took a child bride. On one particular occasion, Khenpo was engrossed in the act of reading sacred scriptures while resting on his bed. During this specific period, it appears there was a significant flood, and his wife approached him and urgently conveyed a message. There's a sudden, unexpected flood. Go and stop it right away, immediately. Khenpo, who was quite fond of his new undergarment that his beloved wife had carefully made for him, so he promptly and without hesitation put on the undergarment and then quickly went to stop the destructive flood. He didn't really know what was going on with the water, and he struggled with it for quite a while. Later his wife found out and said unhappily, "How could you get the new clothes dirty?" She seemed displeased. After that, Khenpo also felt a bit annoyed inside. He said, "You don't consider my feelings, you only care about a piece of clothing. In that case, I don't want it anymore. Take off the skirt and throw it away." After that, the wife was also very angry, felt very wronged, and then went back home. Khenpo thought deeply to himself that there was truly no meaning in samsara. From that very moment, he began to develop a strong sense of renunciation. At that particular time, he hadn't yet fully observed the subtle impermanence of each and every single moment. There was still another experience that followed. What happened after they went back? How did the two of them divide their family property? Although this is a biography of a great master, it still contains very detailed stories. On the surface, it looks just like how people in the world today argue, divorce, and remarry. There are indeed many, many intricate details. But regarding these particular aspects, I genuinely think that you all don't seem especially interested in hearing about them at this moment. So I will not delve deeply into them or elaborate further. Let me clarify here. Whether we contemplate the impermanence of life, the suffering of samsara, or even the suffering of hungry ghosts, after we reflect on these things, we must develop a strong sense of renunciation toward every aspect of samsara, high and low. This is the purpose of our practice and study. In this way, we won't be especially attached to this present life. Although on the surface you still eat, walk, sleep, and so on, the basic necessities of life are indispensable. But in reality, you are not particularly attached or clinging to them as truly existent. This is especially crucial. Now, regarding the profound suffering experienced by hungry ghosts, it is important to note that there are quite a few distinct classifications of these hungry ghosts. Among them, there are the obscured hungry ghosts and the wandering hungry ghosts. And in other texts, such as the Yogacara Bhumi Shastra, I remember it divides them into internally obstructed hungry ghosts, externally obstructed hungry ghosts, and unobstructed hungry ghosts. Actually, the unobstructed hungry ghosts are quite similar to the specially obstructed hungry ghosts mentioned here. They have no obstacles regarding food and drink, but they do have other kinds of obstacles. Also in the Mahaprajnaparamita Shastra, it divides them into bigui, depleted ghosts, and hungry ghosts. The life of the depleted ghosts is basically the same as that of heavenly beings. In the Abhidharma Mahavibhasa Shastra specifically, hungry ghosts are furthermore divided into distinct categories, those with considerable power and those themselves without any power in particular. Most importantly, in the Sutra of Mindfulness of the True Dharma, hungry ghosts are classified into 36 types. I recently read it. It's excellent, and many Dharma friends really need to understand it. It would be best if someone at the Institute could print out a copy and distribute it to everyone. Then everyone can take a closer look at it in detail. Sometimes, if we're not careful, we might truly create the causes to become hungry ghosts ourselves. For example, among them there is one called the Dharma-eating hungry ghost. If someone preaches the Dharma to others just for their own food, they become a Dharma-eating hungry ghost. There is also the meat-eating hungry ghost who indulges in eating meat themselves. They use all sorts of deceitful means in the buying and selling of meat. This is called a meat-eating hungry ghost. There's also the incense and smoke-eating hungry ghost who engages in trading incense. I don't remember this one very clearly. There is also the Mara-bodied hungry ghost who harbors wrong views and wrong understanding in their mental continuum. They do not believe in cause and effect, nor do they believe in the true Dharma. They use various methods to preach all kinds of heretical paths to others. And there are many types of hungry ghosts like these. What causes do these hungry ghosts rely on to be reborn here? Therefore, the principles in the Sadharma Smriti Upasthana Sutra, I sincerely hope that all the esteemed Dharma friends present here today will diligently study these profound teachings. For those dedicated Dharma friends who are not currently within the Institute and are pursuing their studies independently outside, I understand that you frequently go online every single day, often wandering and exploring in the vast virtual space. It is highly recommended that you should conscientiously download the necessary and important scriptures directly from online sources. You can read them on your computer, or if you don't have the means, you can print them out as well. It only costs a few cents or a couple of yuan. You should print out the list of the 36 types of hungry ghosts and read it yourself. Perhaps you will truly gain a lot in your own mind stream. On one hand, you will realize that there are countless sentient beings, even now, who will be reborn among such hungry ghosts. On the other hand, you yourself are also, oh, when I'm a human, I must pay attention to these things. If I don't, I am actually creating the causes to fall into the realm of hungry ghosts. I can feel it. Maybe this will be explained further later, but most fundamentally, we must always be mindful of what causes lead us to fall into the three lower realms. Earlier, whether it was the cold hells or the hot hells, I already explained to everyone the causes for falling into hell. I've also looked at the main causes for becoming a hungry ghost, and some of these will be further explained later. But most importantly, first, in the treatise on the completion of reality, Cheng Shi Lun, which was composed by the Indian master Sahasri and translated by Kumarajiva, it discusses the causes of becoming a hungry ghost. It says that due to developing stinginess and greed regarding food and drink, one falls into the realm of hungry ghosts. Whenever we develop stinginess or greed toward food, wealth, and so on, here it mainly explains that developing greed is the fundamental cause of becoming a hungry ghost. The Sadar Masmurtiyupasthana Sutra states, all hungry ghosts are born in that realm due to the causes and conditions of stinginess, greed, and jealousy. Regarding beings reborn into the hungry ghost realm, we just discussed greed and stinginess, and here the sutra also mentions stinginess and jealousy. Therefore, if one possesses mental states such as stinginess, greed, and jealousy, after death, one will be reborn in the hungry ghost realm to suffer due to these karmic forces. It's very easy for feelings of jealousy to arise and develop between people. So I sincerely hope that in the following detailed introduction to the fascinating realm of hungry ghosts, we can truly understand we ourselves should also contemplate and reflect from various perspectives. First, we should observe and then reflect. The lamp for the path to enlightenment also describes the practice method in this way. At the very beginning, simply closing your eyes and not contemplating anything is not very effective. When contemplating the suffering of hungry ghosts, first, you must truly acknowledge it in theory. There really is a realm of hungry ghosts in this world. Some hungry ghosts in the human world exist among animals. Some are wandering, perpetually hungry ghosts, completely invisible to our human eyes. There is also another distinct kind, as vividly described in various other ancient scriptures, who possess their own intricate cities located deep underground. Therefore, you must acknowledge that hungry ghosts truly exist. If they exist, what kind of suffering do they experience? What are the causes and conditions for being reborn as a hungry ghost? We aspire that in the future, all sentient beings, ourselves and others, and those beings who have not been reborn there, may they never be reborn there. Those beings who have already been reborn there are truly pitiable. At any time and place, even if we have just a little leftover food and drop it on the ground, by reciting the Avalokiteshvara mantra and dedicating it with compassion to countless hungry ghosts, this is indeed very necessary. Many ancient, venerable sages and truly great masters often did such profoundly beneficial and compassionate deeds for all sentient beings, as well as for the entire universe, in their boundless wisdom and unwavering dedication. The content discussed in the following book, The Sufferings of Hungry Ghosts, are divided into two types: concealed hungry ghosts and wandering hungry ghosts. First, the concealed hungry ghosts are further divided into three types: those with external obstacles, those with internal obstacles, and those with special obstacles. This method of classification is quite similar to the one that can be found in the Venerable Yogacarabhumi Shastra, also in the very comprehensive and detailed comprehensive records of the successive generations of Buddhas and patriarchs, which was meticulously written by the esteemed Nianchang during the significant Yuan dynasty in the historical Han regions. It also discusses hungry ghosts with external obstacles and internal obstacles, as well as hungry ghosts who are obstructed by the presence of food and those individuals who actively obstruct the availability of food. The internal and external obstacle hungry ghosts are the same as previously mentioned. As for the hungry ghosts obstructed by food, these beings see many wonderful foods outside. When they eventually arrive at that particular location, they discover that there are numerous formidable minions of Yama, along with various other imposing beings, diligently guarding the precious food. So consequently, they possess absolutely no right whatsoever to consume or partake in it. As for the hungry ghosts, those unfortunate spirits who actively obstruct the consumption of food, all the sustenance, every morsel of food, and every drop of drink they attempt to consume is met with an invisible barrier, turns into iron pellets or molten copper, and their entire bodies are burned. This is the karmic result they experience. So, the essential content and the narratives within both Han Buddhism and Tibetan Buddhism can basically be said to be, in their fundamental nature, quite the same. Many Dharma friends present here should not think that this might be a practice unique to Tibetan Buddhism and not found in Han Buddhism. You absolutely should not think this way. When we study the Pure Land teachings, I basically mention the source of every story and have already explained which sutras in Chinese contain these records. Except for a few special cases unique to Tibet in the preliminary practices, all the rest are from Buddhist sutras and treatises. Most of these sutras and treatises are also found in the Han regions. It's just that sometimes this aspect hasn't been emphasized. Therefore, nowadays, a very small number of people in the Han regions who exclusively study Han Buddhism always have a kind of discriminating thought in their minds. They think this might be something unique to Tibetan Buddhism and very different from Han Buddhism. But actually, this is quite unreasonable. For example, Mipham Rinpoche mentioned in his treatise on the unity of the three vows, in fact, the various schools are inherently not in conflict with each other. It's like descendants passed down from the same father. But if you consider yourself as someone else, then there's nothing that can be done. You've already separated yourself. Therefore, those who study different schools and those who guide disciples must first establish the view that all schools and traditions are not in conflict with each other. If this view is not established, then all kinds of obstacles will arise when you study the Dharma yourself. Because if one's discriminating mind starts to interfere, its power is indeed quite strong. This will create obstacles not only to temporary happiness in this life, but also to ultimate happiness in future lives. Next, it talks about such external obstacles, hungry ghosts. Some of them haven't even heard the name of water for hundreds of years. External obstacles refer to the entire external environment. Due to their karma, food and drink simply do not exist. All day long, they are tormented by hunger and thirst, constantly wandering in search of food and drink. But in the end, they gain nothing and never obtain anything. Just like hungry dogs, they search everywhere. But they are never able to get anything to eat or drink, any kind of sustenance at all. Next, several categories are discussed. Sometimes, hungry ghosts see, in the far distance, clear green rivers flowing by. With stiff limbs, they struggle to support their enormous bellies. They are in extreme pain and utterly exhausted at the same time. Staggering and barely able to move, they walk with great difficulty. But when they finally arrive at their intended destination, all the precious water has completely dried up. There isn't even a single solitary drop left anywhere to be found. Only the parched, barren riverbed remains, utterly desolate and nothing else whatsoever. Consequently, they feel an immense sense of profound distress and overwhelming suffering, a truly heartbreaking situation. Therefore, these beings truly, if we were to be reborn among them, it would be especially pitiful. The Karma and Retribution Sutra also discusses this extensively. It talks about the suffering and causes of falling into the realm of hungry ghosts. There's also the Hungry Ghost Retribution Sutra. If you have the chance, you should take a look. This significant text primarily features the Venerable Maudgalyayana, a prominent disciple of the Buddha who meticulously describes the various profound sufferings and distressing experiences endured by hungry ghosts. Therefore, it is crucial that we also become deeply aware of these teachings and their implications. Sometimes when we look outside, we see that such things simply don't exist in the human world. If I see food, when I approach it, it's still food. For example, if there's an apple here and I really want to eat it, and when I get close, it hasn't changed color or turned into something else. But for hungry ghosts with external obstacles, they simply can't find or see such things in their environment. Even if they do see it, due to their karma, as soon as they get close, it either flies away or turns into something inedible The scriptures mention the impure hungry ghosts. This refers to people who, while alive, often prepared impure food for other sentient beings. Later, when they themselves are reborn as hungry ghosts, when they approach what was originally delicious food, it all turns into extremely filthy, impure substances with a terrible stench. Sometimes from a distance they see trees lush and green, laden with fruit. Just as before, they rush over, but when they get close, all the trees have completely withered into bare trunks. Originally thinking there would be fruits or groves to seek shade, but upon approaching, all these external environments have become dried and withered, have already dried up, and they still get nothing. Sometimes in their explorations, they encounter a truly magnificent and diverse variety of foods. This includes an extensive array of incredibly delicious and wonderfully tempting culinary creations, alongside all sorts of other exquisite and delightful delicacies, presenting a truly abundant feast for the eyes and the palate. But when they get close, they are immediately met by many fully armed and heavily armored guards who brutally beat and forcefully drive them away with various menacing weapons, causing significant distress. It is truly an indescribable suffering. When they eventually get to that particular place, there is simply no conceivable way for them to truly enjoy any of it at all. Countless numerous guards immediately begin to relentlessly whip them with all kinds of various brutal weapons. Some ancient scriptures vividly describe these unfortunate hungry ghosts as being completely covered in gruesome, festering wounds, enduring immense and unimaginable suffering. Their torment is profound and relentless. I distinctly recall reading in the sacred sutra spoken by the Buddha on dispelling fear and calamity, a revered text that offers solace and guidance, that these beings are indeed in a state of perpetual agony. That the revered Buddha, accompanied by his devoted and numerous retinue, was in the process of crossing a wide and flowing river, and during this journey they encountered a vast multitude of 84,000 suffering and hungry ghosts along the arduous and lengthy way. The Buddha pretended not to know and asked, "What suffering do you have? Why have you come here?" They replied, "In the past, we did not know that the so-called Buddha existed, nor did we believe in the Buddha. We also did not know that the Dharma existed, nor did we have faith in the Dharma jewel. We also did not know that the Sangha existed, nor did we believe in it. In fact, when it came to other heretical teachings and wrong views, if we encountered them, we would become excited and extremely delighted. Because of such karma, we have now been reborn in the realm of hungry ghosts." The Buddha asked, "How many years have you been here?" In some scriptures it is said, "We have already been here for 70,000 years. During this process, they also said, "Sometimes from a great distance we see water, but when we get closer it vanishes without a trace. It's simply gone. Sometimes we see large rivers and great streams, but when we approach, there are many guardians who prevent us from using them. We have no rights at all, so we suffer immensely." There are also some records about this matter. Therefore, we should often read some sutras and shastras. Truly, sutras and shastras bring tremendous benefit to our mental continuum. But nowadays, many people in society are not interested in the valuable scriptures and the crystallization of wisdom. Instead, they are drawn to the discriminative thoughts written by modern people, which on the surface seem quite reasonable. They are especially interested in treatises and topics that cater to their greed and anger. This truly is the manifestation of sentient beings' karma. Therefore, we must make sure to read through ancient texts like the Tripitaka and other especially excellent books. Sometimes, when I come across a good book, a reliable scriptural reference, or a meaningful story, I feel especially joyful. Truly, there is an indescribable feeling in my heart. I think many fellow practitioners here may feel the same way. As for things like wars or worldly matters, such as buying weapons or buying clothes, for example, I feel there isn't much real significance in them. These things have nothing to do with our liberation from the cycle of birth and death. Why is it that in the Buddhist scriptures, the Buddha did not place particular emphasis on describing the details of the external material world? The reason is that liberation from the cycle of birth and death is especially important. Attaining liberation from the cycle of birth and death is extremely important. Therefore, in the King of Dharma Sutra, the Buddha specifically uses a metaphor. For example, when a person's body is suddenly struck by a poisoned arrow, if you don't pull the arrow out and instead focus on which mountain the bamboo of the arrow came from, or what kind of feather the arrow fletching is made of, what the quality of the arrow is, or who shot it. If you examine all these things one by one, the person will die. There's no time left. But if you quickly pull the arrow out, then he won't die, and there's hope for survival. In the same way, in our brief lives, the matter of life and death is extremely important. If we spend our time meticulously examining the entire external world, the macrocosm and the microcosm, then in this short lifetime, there simply isn't enough time. Atisha the Venerable also said, among the vast array of knowledge, one should choose the most useful for oneself. Just like a swan, when water and milk are mixed together, it extracts only the milk to drink. In the same way, in this diverse world, it is meaningless to introduce every single piece of knowledge one by one. That is why the Buddha mainly taught the reasons for suffering, its origin, cessation, and the path. Therefore, all the Dharma friends present here, truly, on one hand, you need to have a general understanding of the current worldly studies and various kinds of knowledge. It probably won't do if you know nothing at all, because we still have to live in this world. And to spread the Dharma, we must also adapt to the world, so we should have a basic understanding. But the most crucial point is that we are running out of time now. In your brief life, if it is entirely spent on meaningless knowledge, then it will be too late. When you die, you truly will not have laid any foundation for liberation at all. So the earlier analogy was used to illustrate this point. In this world, freeing ourselves from the cycle of birth and death is the most important thing. This is something everyone should keep in their hearts. To be free from birth and death, we must recognize the suffering of samsara. After recognizing it, we must find ways to avoid falling into the lower realms. It's like someone driving a car to a certain destination. You need to avoid all the dangerous spots along the road, one by one. There's a pit here, a cliff there. You can't go there. If you fall, it's very dangerous. You need to understand this. You must set your sights firmly on the path to liberation. In the same way, we must be very clear about the purpose of our spiritual practice now. So, as mentioned below, for these hungry ghosts, even the moon in summer feels scorching hot to them. And in the depths of winter, even the sun's rays feel chillingly cold, intensely icy, and remarkably cool to the touch. They truly endure endless, agonizing torment. For hungry ghosts, the radiant moonlight in the summer months, which should be wonderfully cool and incredibly refreshing, instead feels unbearably intensely hot. And in the depths of winter, the gentle sunlight, which should be pleasantly warm and comforting, but due to the karma they have created, just as described in the letter to a friend, the 4 seasons feel completely reversed to hungry ghosts. The treatise on the 4 Noble Truths was written by an Indian scholar and was later translated into Chinese by the esteemed Master Paramartha. In the significant treatise on the 4 Noble Truths, this profound work explores fundamental Buddhist principles. The descriptions of both the sunlight and the moonlight are presented in a remarkably vivid and evocative manner. The moon, for instance, is depicted as burning with an intense, almost scorching heat, much like the powerful and radiant summer sun. Similarly, the wind is portrayed as feeling incredibly hot and fierce, akin to the sensation of actual flames licking at one's skin. Raindrops like boiling soup, stepping on ground like hot ashes, means that for special beings, especially hungry ghosts, raindrops are like scalding boiling water, and stepping on the ground is like stepping on burning hot ashes. The intensely bright and scorching moonlight feels as unbearably hot and fiery as the most intense summer sun. When a soft and delicate gentle breeze touches their exposed bodies, it feels as if they are being seared and agonizingly burned by invisible, relentless flames. For us, when the wind blows on our bodies, it feels cool and comfortable. These days, our institute has been getting more and more comfortable. Actually, if the institute had such hot winds, not to mention like flames, even if it were just like firelight, it would already be quite something. Even if the wind were just a bit warm, like firelight, I would already feel a bit afraid. Now it's getting colder and colder. Look, it was snowing heavily this morning. And when it rains, the raindrops feel like intensely hot, molten copper, searing and pouring down relentlessly on the entire body. The skin all over the body would become completely and painfully ulcerated, raw and exposed. And when walking on the ground, it's as if you're treading barefoot on scorching, burning hot sand, or agonizingly stepping into a deep pit of glowing, fiery embers, causing immense and unbearable pain with every single step. This is what hungry ghosts experience. But when we talk about this in words, some people, especially those who don't really understand the causes and effects of life and death, may not be able to feel it. For those who have unwavering faith in the law of cause and effect regarding life and death, they know that there are countless sentient beings suffering right now. That's why, after doing good deeds, we must dedicate the merit. Next, let me share an example. A long time ago, Venerable Dharmarakshita entered the realm of hungry ghosts. Dharmarakshita, previously referred to as the Venerable Million Ears, is commonly mentioned in the Vinaya texts. Some texts refer to him as Venerable Hearer of a Billion Ears. When Dharmarakshita was just born into this world, he had beautiful golden earrings adorning his ears. He truly came into the human world wearing these distinctive and precious earrings. That's why people called him the Venerable Million Ears, or the Venerable Jeweled Earring. Later on, when he often accompanied Buddha Shakyamuni, did he still wear those earrings? I'm not sure how big his earrings were, generally in India. The Venerable Dharmarakshita entered the realm of the hungry ghosts. He was poisoned by the stingy and toxic air of the hungry ghosts and felt parched and dry-mouthed. He saw in front of the gate of an iron city a terrifying hungry ghost with a black face and red eyes. It was an especially frightening hungry ghost. He couldn't help but urgently ask, "Where can I find water?" As soon as he finished speaking, a huge crowd suddenly gathered. Countless ravenous hungry ghosts, appearing much like charred burnt tree trunks, came swarming over relentlessly with an eerie, unsettling presence. I remember in the Vinaya Sutra it mentions there were about 500 hungry ghosts. They scrambled and pleaded, "Most Venerable Master, please have mercy and give us a little water." At that moment they all gathered in front of him. The Venerable said, "I can't get a single drop of water either. I'm also searching for water." He asked them, "Who exactly are you?" They replied pitifully, "Ever since we were reborn in this valley, it has already been 12 years. But today is the first time we've ever heard the word water. We had never heard of it before." In the Vinaya of the Sarvastivada, the case of leather, which is the case of leather from the 17 cases, this story is recorded. The beginning of this story is exactly the same. At that time, Joshinji went into the great ocean to retrieve treasures, and on his way back, he arrived at the city of hungry ghosts by the sea. Later he asked, "Why have you been reborn among the hungry ghosts?" Then these hungry ghosts all replied in unison, "When we were in the human realm before, we committed acts of stinginess, did not practice generosity, were jealous, and there was another cause as well. It was because of these causes and conditions that we were reborn here." This story appears later in the scriptures, and it is also found in the Chinese texts. When you have time, it's best to take a look at it yourself. So, hungry ghosts are reborn here, and basically, for 12 years, they can't even hear the name of water. Yet, because their karma manifests, they still remain alive. For humans, let alone 12 years, even 12 days would be impossible. There was a year when a tsunami occurred, and it was said that one person survived for 13 days. At the time, all the major news outlets reported on it. It was considered a miracle. For ordinary people, it's very difficult to survive so many days without eating or drinking. But during the time as a hungry ghost, because the being's karma manifests, they really can have such a long lifespan. Also, in the revered 100 Deed Sutra, there's a fascinating and significant story about the devoted mother of Uttara, a tale that is often recounted and deeply cherished. She too was reborn as a hungry ghost. How did she end up being reborn there? Not long after Uttara was born, his father passed away. His mother raised him and treated him especially well. The life the mother and son led was also quite good and affluent. Later, Uttara wanted to become a monk, but when his mother found out, she absolutely forbade it. His mother told him, "As long as I am alive, you absolutely cannot become a monk. Once I am gone, after I die, then it's your own business. Before that, no matter what, I will not agree to it." Later, there was a significant time when Uttara was deeply prepared to commit suicide, saying, "If you absolutely do not agree with my wishes, then actually this is the best way to attempt suicide in front of his parents." Some people might say, if you want to commit suicide, just do it. He was about to commit suicide, but then his mother told him, "Don't choose this path. Although I don't agree with you becoming a monk, I will still give my consent. In the future, you can make more offerings to the Shramanas and Brahmin, and I will also agree to provide the offerings." So for a period of time after that, every single day, Uttara made numerous offerings to many revered Buddhists and respected Shramanas. One particular time, when Uttara was not at home, his mother did something especially malicious. She deliberately threw away all the prepared food. Then she disdainfully said, "You Shramanas do nothing all day and just eat other people's food. What exactly is it that you do?" She drove them all completely away. When Uttara eventually came back, his own mother deceitfully lied to him, saying, "Today, these truly venerable ones came to visit, and the offering ceremony went very, very well indeed. You should be extremely happy about this." Uttara believed it was true. He didn't notice anything and was very happy. Later, after his mother passed away, he believed she must have attained liberation. After his mother died, with no more obstacles, he became a monk. That day, someone said, "I really wish, Om Benza Sattva Hung, I really wish my mother would pass away soon. I want to become a monk, but she never allows it." That's what he said. So, after Uttara's beloved mother tragically died, he was filled with a profound sense of happiness and consequently became a devoted monk. It didn't actually say very happy, that part was my addition. After becoming a monk, he practiced diligently and attained the fruit of arhatship. Once, while he was practicing in a cave by the sea, a particularly ugly, truly terrifying, hungry ghost suddenly appeared before him. It spoke with a mournful voice and told him, "I am your mother, your own flesh and blood. I have been a hungry ghost for a full 20 years, enduring immense suffering." Then Uttara, filled with shock and confusion, hesitantly asked, "Why, mother, why has this happened? You made so many offerings to the Sangha and provided meals during your life, so why did this happen?" Later, she said, "For the most part I had good roots, but the only thing that went wrong was that when you weren't around, I spoke harshly and cursed at the monks. As a result, this karma caused me to fall into the realm of hungry ghosts. Now, it is extremely difficult for me to attain liberation. You must make offerings of food to the Sangha and dedicate the merit to me." Later, after he made the first offering and dedication, she seemed to be reborn as a flying, hungry ghost. It was only after performing another good deed the second time that she was reborn in the heavenly realm. There are also stories like this. So it is important for us to fully comprehend and understand that being reborn as a hungry ghost is not a brief experience, but rather an incredibly prolonged and arduous existence that can last for a very, very long period of time. Following this, let us now proceed to discuss the specific category of hungry ghosts known as the inner obstructed hungry ghosts. This type of inner obstructed hungry ghost has a mouth as small as the eye of a needle. They ardently wish to drink freely and abundantly from the vast ocean. But unfortunately, the water simply cannot pass through their incredibly thin throats, which are as delicate as a horse's fine hair. Extremely, extremely thin, just like a single strand of horsehair. With such an incredibly thin tube, it's absolutely impossible for anything to go through. And even if something does get through, it's swept away by the poisonous breath in their mouths. Because hungry ghosts have a kind of poisonous breath, everything dries up completely from the poison. Even if a tiny bit of water manages to enter their throat, it still can't satisfy their stomachs, which are as big as a basin as large as a hill, the Sichuan Basin. There are indeed 4 significant basins. Back when we were diligently studying geography in school, we learned about these important geographical features. I'm trying to recall them now, but which 4 specific basins were they? It's quite frustrating, as I've completely forgotten all of their names and locations. Saddam, huh? That's an interesting name to bring up. The Tarim Basin you mentioned, that vast geographical depression located in northwest China. Wait a moment, is it indeed the Tarim Basin I'm thinking of? Or am I perhaps confusing it with another place? Oh well, never mind, let's just move on from that thought. Whenever basins are mentioned, Back in middle school, there was a teacher named Mr. Wang. He taught us all about them well. Now, I'm truly starting to experience vivid past life memories that feel incredibly real and deeply ingrained within me. It's like recalling forgotten experiences from a distant past. I have a stomach as vast and cavernous as a massive basin, an insatiable void that simply cannot be satisfied no matter how much I consume or try to fill it. Even if their belly feels just a little bit full, at night a raging fire ignites in their belly as well. It burns up the heart, lungs, and all the internal organs. What unbearable suffering that must be. Even if they manage to take in a little water during the day, by nightfall it's all dried up, all burned away. When they try to move around, their limbs, as pale and withered as dry grass, can hardly support a belly as big as a basin. It is truly a profound and agonizing suffering to the extreme, reaching the deepest levels of torment and distress. In the meticulously compiled historical work known as the Scriptural and Vinaya Parallels, which was diligently assembled and edited by the Venerable Buddhist scholar Bao Chang, it is also explicitly mentioned that within its extensive records and detailed accounts, there are references to this very same profound suffering. There were 500 hungry ghosts by the Ganges River, and they were extremely suffering at that time. The Buddha was also there. These hungry ghosts could not see the water of the Ganges River due to their heavy karmic obscurations. Then in front of the Buddha they said, "We are profoundly tormented by an unbearable thirst and truly on the very verge of imminent death. Our precious lives are now at their absolute limit." Then, in response to this desperate plea, the compassionate Buddha gently said, "You may freely drink the pure and life-giving water of the sacred Ganges River." The hungry ghosts sadly said, "In front of the revered Tathagata there is an abundance of clear water, but in front of us there are only scorching flames. There's simply no possible way for us to drink." The Buddha said, "As long as the deluded, discriminating thoughts in your minds have not been dispelled, I'm afraid it won't work." So the Buddha taught the hungry ghosts about the faults of stinginess and other aspects of the Dharma. But the hungry ghosts said, "Right now we are unable to receive the Dharma. Could you let us find a way to drink some water first? Then we can attentively listen to the profound teachings." Later, through his truly miraculous powers and divine blessings, the compassionate Buddha enabled the suffering hungry ghosts to finally drink refreshing water. After that, he graciously taught them the sacred Dharma. They then gave rise to bodhicitta and abandoned their bodies as hungry ghosts. So as we usually see, the sacred water of the Ganges River, as well as the waters of various other significant rivers throughout the entire world, appear as either repulsive pus and flowing blood or intensely burning flames to the perpetually suffering hungry ghosts. As soon as this flame touches their bodies, they are completely burned. So we must remember that there are countless pitiful hungry ghosts with such inner obstacles in this world. Once food and drink enter their bodies, it all turns into flames. Actually, even in the world today, although they are not truly hungry ghosts, there is little difference from hungry ghosts. For example, some people with esophageal cancer, any food or drink, once it enters their bodies, they can't digest it, and immediately it torments them like flames, causing intense pain. There are also various similar karmic effects. But as for these situations in the human world now, when a person truly falls ill, feels cold, or suffers alone, it really can't be compared to that. Usually, if we go a day without eating, or if our meal is delayed by just 2 or 3 hours, we feel, I'm so hungry today, it's so unbearable. People often say this as well. "Sigh, I haven't eaten all day, what should I do? I feel especially miserable." But if you really compare this to the suffering of hungry ghosts, the difference is huge. Therefore, when we practice contemplation, we should remember that no matter how much we suffer in the human world, it's never that severe. Of course, there are rare cases where someone might die of starvation, and in those moments there is certainly pain. In this world, we must visualize and reflect on these kinds of suffering. It's extremely important to strengthen our own practice. All right, that's all for today.
Bandara Padma Sada Bandara Padma Sada